there. Welcome back to the Board Game Specialists. I'm Carla.
And I'm Melanie.
And we are on episode 51. Today we are counting down our top 50, and it will be 40 to 31 today.
Yeah.
So getting close, but these are all still so good games. Like the top 50 to me could like flip around, it spots.
Yeah, they get tight.
Easily. Not from 50 to 1, but, the 50 to 30, those could all kind of be the same. The 10 to 20, they could flip around from day to day. So these are all really good games in my opinion. But before we talk about those, what have you been playing lately?
So yesterday we played a few games. Nick was the only kid that was over, but we ended up playing Alien Fate of the Nostromo. This is one that I've purchased a year ago. Me and Nick have played it once together, and then this was our first time playing it 3 players. And it's based on the Alien movie, and you're on the ship, and there is an alien, and you have like your little mini character, and then you have like the alien mini character as well, kind of like walking around too, and then you flip over some missions that you got to try to accomplish, and then like the grand mission or whatever. But you don't know what that is until you get your little missions done. And it's, depending on the number of players, it's one for each player plus 1. So we had these 4 different things we needed to do. I think like get oxygen canisters into the one room, and then get these parts into another room and different things like that, right? But as you're navigating around the Nostromo, the alien is moving around as well. And then there'll be some room you go in and you flip a thing and the alien might be there, or it might be the cat that's part of the movie. And then the cat spooks you, so it brings your morale down just from spooking you until you can like put it in a animal crate kind of thing. So it's an interesting game. We died so quick, it was ridiculous, which is what I remember the first time I played it. But you can use the parts that you come across to craft different tools, and that allows you to kind of look ahead as to what's coming or manipulate the alien a bit more. And we weren't really worrying about it, and I think that's what we need to do. Like, you need to start by crafting the things so you can protect yourself, then kind of start going towards your mission. And maybe you would have a fighting chance, but this is not an easy game. But it was great. And then I started a murder mystery puzzle, which you have like a story that you read through, and it kind of has a little story of what's going on, and there's a murder of some sort, and then the clue to solve this murder is in this puzzle, but you don't know what the image is. So I'm in the process of doing that, and I'm hoping to get that done quickly because it's taking up my whole table. I can't play anything else until it's done. So I was up till 2 in the morning working on it yesterday, and then I woke up this morning. I was like, oh, we're recording this morning. Maybe I can get a little bit of my puzzle done first. And I did. I got up and I worked on the puzzle a little bit before we started recording. And then afterwards, I'll go back to my puzzle and try to solve my murder. How about you, Carla? What have you been playing lately?
So we played Orleans the other day.
Nice.
This one, I love this game so much. We had introduced it to Ashley. She had never played this, and I don't know if she's ever played Bag Builders, but the older Euros sometimes don't go well with the group I play with, but this one went over really well. Cherry's liked this game, and Ashley really liked it. It really turned her on to bag builders in general. She's like, I gotta find another good bag builder, but it's so good. It's a bag builder where you are pulling out chips, but what the chips are your workers. And so you start with 4. Everybody has the same 4. And you'll place them on your board each round. There's 18 rounds, so it's it's not a long game, but there's a lot of rounds. The first, I'd say 5, 6, 7 are quite short because you don't have a lot of workers, so you can't do many things. But you place these little workers on your board, and you need like 2 or 3 in order to do something. And you always need specific ones. So depending what you pull out, you can only do a few things, right? So you'll place them on your board, and if you've completed, like you have all the characters that you need, you can do that action. You can leave them on your board from round to round if you didn't want to perform that action that round. You can also I'm going to say hire, but I don't know if it's the right word, a monk. And so you need two separate people. And those are kind of wild, so they can go in any spot. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to travel through, well, you start at Orleans and then you travel like southeast and southwest kind of, and you're trying to build trading stations and gather goods. And that's part of the game. And that's, you definitely build trading stations because that gives you a bunch of end game points. You try to collect citizens, and those are kind of tougher to do. Usually you have to kind of get near an end of a track to do that, or be the one who's built the most trading stations, because then at the end of the game, all your trading stations plus your citizens are multiplied by however far you got on this one track on the bottom. And so it has a bunch of stars. And once you get to, say you got to 4, you would multiply 4 by what you had. That's not all the points, though. There's other ways to get points. You can, the goods, they're worth different variable points. The cloth, I believe, is the highest. So you really want to try to get some of those, but you can also use those to fulfill these objectives, which is in part of the expansion, which is really cool. And to fulfill those objectives, you have to be in certain spots on the map. So you might need to be in Orleans to like fulfill this one. And like there's 5 cards out. So if you have all the goods, you say you need wheat and wool and wine, you could fulfill it and you'd have to give up those resources. But you get a big chunk of points, more than you would if you just saved them for the end of the game. So that's another way to get points. Money is straight points. So you could just try to find ways to, like an engine to, because you can build these buildings as well that only you can place your workers in. And there's some that will give you money. There's some that'll give you goods. So you could just, try to develop a money engine there. Like there's just so many ways that you can score points. The expansions in this are awesome. I'm going to have to say I have the trade and intrigue. And you have this whole other board that you can place people on and they go there permanently to work, I guess. But then you get this really cool bonus. So they have one in the base game, but the expansion one.
I was going to say, I thought that was part of the base game, but there's there's the trade and intrigue. There's 2 boards. There's one that's really neat, and then there's one that's very evil. And all it is to screw the other players. I've never played with that one, but some people might like that. And then they have this expansion that is, it makes it co-op, and you have to it's really cool. It's called Invasion, I believe, or Alliance Invasion. And so I've only tried that one once, but it's awesome because you have to fulfill all these certain goals in order to win. And it's so unique and neat. It has a solo mode in it. I can't remember if I've tried that one, but it's an awesome game. Totally recommend that one. Cool.
Also, we played a little escape box that I purchased from this girl who sold me a whole bunch of like mystery escape room things for super cheap. I got this whole big package, but she threw in this game, and it's like one of those like virtual, or not virtual, like a box. And so you just pull the lid off and the box is the game.
Oh, okay.
So you have these cards and then you kind of have to look around. So this one was called Escape from Alcatraz.
Oh, nice.
And so what you see on the board is the island and then all these different routes of possibly escaping, and which islands. There's 3 islands you could possibly go to. Like there's one that's far away, one that's a little bit far away, and one that's a bit closer, and you have to figure out which is the best one. And it's just neat. You have all these cards and these little decoders that you will slip in the box to see if you have the right answer, but you have to have had the right number, color, and symbol in order to do that. Some of the puzzles in it were really tricky for me anyway, but we all like figured it out together. I think we only used a hint maybe once at the end, I believe, but it was really neat. And they do make a couple other ones. They make Escape to Chichen Itza and Escape to Area 51.
Oh, cool.
These boxes. I haven't been able to find those. I think Cherry has one of them, the Area 51, but it was interesting. Like I think it's kind of the same production company that makes Escape the Room. Like, with all those expansions, but this one's just like the one box. But it's neat because then you peel these walls down once you get into Alcatraz, right? Then you peel it in and then it's jail. And then there's other things that later you'll peel open, and you just keep opening things, and it's really interesting.
That sounds really neat. Yeah.
It's
Is it like a one-time play, then the
yes,
game is done?
it is.
Yeah.
You can try mine. You can give her a try for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's I think it's something you would like. I mean, some of the things are quite hard to see. I had my magnifying glass in there.
Oh my god.
Were laughing at me, and I'm like, it's so small in there. So I had a flashlight and a magnifying glass trying to look in this little jail cell. But
because we started doing the advent calendar one, and then it's like that where you got to look inside.
Yes, it's
each
just
box
like
is a room, right?
Some of it's out, like in the open, you can see, but when you have to look in the jail cells or whatever, it's a little small. But yeah, I'll send one, and I'll send it with Ashley.
Yeah,
to try. It's neat. Your boys might like it too because it's hands-on and like it's just visually cool. But yeah, those are two of the games I've been playing.
Sweet.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
40.
Right? Mm-hmm. All right. I got to say, I'm enjoying doing the countdown. Oh, yeah. And then actually, I went through my list this time, and I had one, and because just before we started, Carla's like, oh, hold on, I'm just writing like I was like, oh yeah, I haven't done that. So I started going through, and one of them, I opened it kind of like, oh, that's not the game I thought it was. It's like, that one wouldn't have been up here. It's like, which is the game I thought it was? So I'll bring that up when that comes up. So I was like, have a big scratch and then like an arrow. And it's like, no, this is the one I meant. So,
yeah. Oh, yes. And before you start,
okay.
I just watched your top, because your top 100 is out on YouTube.
Yes.
So I watched the first 100 to 91, I believe it was, right?
Yeah.
And the first game on the list, I'm like, oh God, now I got to try this one. So you guys got to watch it. It's some good stuff.
I'll send it over to you so you can try it. It's a good game. I love it.
It looks good. I don't know how I missed that one, but anyway, you guys got to watch that one.
All right. So number 40 for me is The Captain is Dead. And that one was published in 2014. It might be the oldest one on my list. And it was created by Joe Price and J.T. Smith. Now, me and Lee watched Star Trek, the original series, like from the 70s. The whole series. I mean, and it's so bad, it's good. So we watched the whole series. And afterward, I went on a Trekkie game quest. So The Captain is Dead technically isn't part of the Star Trek IP because there's no like actual reference to it, but it really is. And this one is brutal game. It is hard to win. So, and in fact, I think we won it once because we forgot to give ourselves like the initial like hardship that would have happened before you start the game. We didn't do any of those. So that was the only time I won. But oh my God, I like this one. So it's cooperative. You're on the ship. The captain of the ship is dead. And you're the rest of the crew. And the ship is being overrun by aliens. And a bunch of things are happening. The warp core is broken. And you need to fix it so that you can warp out of there and survive. So there's just, it's like pandemic style a little bit where each round something goes wrong, right? But so you each have the different character and then different characters will do different things. You have different skills that are kind of associated to your character, but then you can collect more skills. And that's what you need to spend to either send a torpedo or build more torpedoes or go and fix the warp core or fix your shields and different things like that, right? So you need to collect these skill cards and spend them in order to do all these things. And then you're trying to kind of get rid of the aliens that are on the ship, but each round there might be new ones that show up as well. And you're going from room to room. But yeah, like every people... And like I said, they're not specific to the IP. They're not related to the Star Trek series. But you'll have this one guy that you can be, and you are the red shirt guy, which is so Trekkie. But then as the red shirt guy, anytime you take a hit, you just come back. It's like your character dies all the time and just shows up again. It is neat. Oh my God, I like this game. It is hard, but so fun, so neat. And you have all these acrylic standees that you're playing as, and the whole thing is so great. And that's my number 40. The Captain is Dead.
Now, do you know, is this anything similar about like the new Starship Captains coming out?
Oh, I don't know.
Because that one's like a Star Trek theme, but they didn't obviously purchase the IP, apparently, but I haven't looked at, like, anytime you describe this,
yeah,
I always think, like, because this just came out this year, that always makes me think of that game. I haven't really looked into it, but I'm just curious if it's similar.
I'm just looking at picture. You know what? To look at it looks quite different.
Oh, does it?
So I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into this one. Yeah, I'm gonna need this to go with my Trekkie collection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Carla.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, my number 40 is Unfair, made in 2017 by Joel Finch. Now, this is a card tableau building game, but you are building a theme park. And it's really cool because you build up these different rides or attractions, and you're trying to get a whole bunch of symbols on them. So you're trying to upgrade them and add things to them. And the thing is that, so each round you have events at the beginning, and you can play these events. You would have to have used an action in order to take some events, other than at the beginning of the game, everybody gets them. But some of these events are just things that'll be good for you, give you extra money or give you extra visitors or whatnot, guests, I guess. Mm-hmm. But some of them are nasty, and they can like close other people's rides down, and just for the round, or like they have to take off an upgrade, like it's destroyed or something. So you can play this game not using any of the nasty stuff, but we usually do play with it. We don't play totally, well, I shouldn't say that. I played with a couple, and it was so funny because they just were at each other the whole time, and I'm just over here secretly building my theme park, and they never attacked me, and I just destroyed them because they were tearing each other down. And I was building these giant rides, but I just would laugh over here as they're like, "Oh, really? Well, I'm going to do this to you." I'm like, "You guys fight it out. I'll just play over here." But it was funny. It's such a neat game, though. The art on it is so cool, and there's so many different ways to build. There's different themes in it, which is cool. So what you do at the beginning of the game, you each pick out a theme, and the base game comes with like robots, gangster, dinosaurs, or maybe dinosaurs is in the expansion. I'm getting mixed up, but there's a whole bunch of themes. So you'll pick out a theme and you grab that pack of cards, and then you're going to mix them all up, and then they'll go out on the main board, and so then they'll be in the market. So you can choose all these different cards. So you can have different themes for your park. You don't have to have just one theme. You can have some robot things, you can have some gangster themes, but a lot of times some of the cards will play off that theme. So you might want to collect that type of theme, but some you don't need to. It's just a whole kind of mix of just how you can bonus things and like combo off different ones. And some, like, if other people have this in their park, I'm going to get money kind of thing, or all different things. It's really neat. I don't know if you've ever tried this one.
I haven't, no.
Oh, it's so cool. I love
it.
Sounds
There's
neat. Also a version called Fun Fair, which is just nice and no nastiness, but you can turn it off in this game. So right. I've kind of looked at that one, and I think it's almost the identical game without it. So I don't think I would need to buy the nice version when I can just make mine be nice. Yeah. But it's just neat because it has different packs that you can always... Oh, there's an alien one, too.
Oh, cool.
There's a Western one. Yeah, there's so many cool ones. And then when you mix them all, they're different mixed together. So you kind of have a different game every time. And yeah, it's really neat. But that's my number 40. Unfair.
Nice. My number 39, I gotta say, I'm surprised this game is as high as it is. In a way, but then in another way, I'm not. We've played this one so many times, and this is one of those games that I've gifted to everybody, and that's Bang the Dice Game. So it was published in 2013. It was created by Michael Palm and Lucas Zach, and I got introduced to this one when me and my siblings were traveling back home to New Brunswick, and we had a bunch of the cousins we would get together every night, and we would play a game. And my cousin had brought this one. Now my brother had packed his suitcase. He brought 2 suitcases. His suitcase with his clothes and all this stuff, and then a suitcase that we just filled with board games. So we played board games every day, every night, and played different ones. And my cousin had brought this one the first night. And we're like, okay, yeah, maybe we'll try it. But we never ended up not trying it. So he's like, okay, I'm bringing it tomorrow. We need to try this game. I'm like, okay, fine, we'll try it. So we played it the next day, and then we played it like multiple times in the evening, and then we've played it every evening for like, I think we were there a week and a half to 2 weeks, and we played it every night for like that the whole time we were there. And it was so neat. And in this one, you get given a role, and your role is secret unless you're the sheriff. And if you're the sheriff, you show this and you put it face up. So everybody knows who you are if you're the sheriff, but you don't know who they are. So there'll be some people that are deputies, and their role is to help you out and try to get rid of the bad guys. The outlaw's role is to kill you. If you kill the sheriff, then the outlaws win. The renegade is to be the last man standing, so they just want to kill everybody but themselves. And then, and the sheriff and the deputies is just you're trying to get rid of all the outlaws and the renegades. So, and this is a dice game, so you will roll the dice, and it's Yahtzee style where you can roll up to 3 times. So you roll the dice, and you can get a few different things. You can get a number 1 target, and that means you can shoot a person 1 space away from where you're sitting. Or if you get a number 2 target, you can shoot a person 2 spaces away. And then, so you'd be like, okay, well, I'm shooting you by 1, I'm shooting you by 1. And then be like, what? I'm your deputy. And I'm like, I don't know if you really are. Like, just in case, I'll shoot you just in case, or, yeah. And then,
liar.
Yeah, it's like, you don't really know. Or, it's like, I would like shoot the sheriff and they're like, oh my God, I thought you were the deputy. I was like, I am, I'm just bluffing. I'm like, by shooting me? It's like, so it gets really interesting. And then you'll have the arrow dice. Now, those ones can be re-rolled, but you have to take an arrow from the arrow piles. And if it ever comes that the last one is taken, everybody who's got some have to return their arrows into the arrow pile, but you take that many hits. And then there's the Gatling gun. If you roll 3 of those, then everybody gets shot except for you. And then there's dynamites. And if you get a dynamite, you can't re-roll the dice. You put it aside. If you ever roll 3 of them, you kind of blow up the dynamite in your hand. You take a hit. You can assign the other dice you have, but you can't re-roll anymore. You're done. This one is just, and it's a party game. It is. It's a party game, which I'm surprised is so high here, but I just love this one. It is so cool. Every time we play it goes over so well. And that's my number 39, Bang the Dice Game.
Yeah, that is such an awesome game. I don't get to play that one enough. I haven't found a group that really likes it. But
what?
I want to play it more.
Yeah.
Good one. All right, my number 39 is Seikatsu, made in 2017 by Matt Lewis and Isaac Shalev. This is an abstract strategy game, but it is. I wouldn't say there's a big theme. It has birds and flowers on the tiles. They're really beautiful tiles. They're nice and thick, round, like acrylic tiles. And they have this beautiful little birds on them and flowers around the birds. Now, there's different patterns of flowers and there's different birds. And you can play this as there's a solo version. You can play 2-player, 3-player, or there's a 4-player variant where you play in teams. But it's made for 3 players because the board is set. It has like 3 quadrants. I guess that's not the word for 3, but
right.
3
sections. We'll just say sections.
Yeah, I don't know what to say for that. But so depending where you're sitting, that is your perspective of the board. So you will score in your line, kind of the way you're looking at the board from the beginning to the end is how you're going to score your flowers. The person beside you, that way they're looking, and it's clear on the board because it'll have one color that's going this way and the other color, so it's very clear. But it's so neat because there's different ways to score points during the game, or there's, I guess, one way to score during the game, but you're also setting the board up for the end game scoring. So what you're doing is you have 2 tiles always, I believe, because you draw out of a bag, and you can play one of these tiles on the board. And it always has to touch another bird. So you will kind of start in the middle and work your way out, sort of thing, because there's always one tile that is started on the board. So you can place a bird next to the first one. You can place a bird that matches that bird, and if you do, then you will get to score both of those. And then once the game gets going, if there's more tiles around it, you can stick a bird, and however many matching birds that it touches, you get to score all those points, which seems easy. But around those birds are flower patterns, like I said. Now, those patterns are going to score at the end of the game in your perspective line. So you want to get as many of the same flowers in the same line. Because like how typical scoring goes, if you have 3 in the line, you'd say get 6 points. And this isn't the exact scoring, but if you had 4 in a line, 10, if you had 5 in a line, 15 points kind of thing. So you really want to try to do that. But of course, the other players are not going to let you get full lines of just straight flowers, right? So sometimes you're playing where you're like, I'm not matching any birds, but wow, am I ever getting all my flowers lined up? And some people might not be paying attention, and you can just do it, and you just don't have a lot of points during the game, but then come end game, you are wrapping them because you're scoring all these points. So it's really thinky that way, and you just have to keep watching. Okay, well, I don't want to do this because I really want to put this bird here. It's going to give me 4 points, but it's going to give them 4 flowers in a row from there. So you kind of have to figure out that way. There's also a little wild chip that comes out. It's a koi fish, I should say. And those are wild. So you set them down and they can be any bird, but once they are down, then they're nothing. So if you put something next to a koi, it doesn't do anything. But they are also wild flowers at the end too. So it's a really neat game. And it's older, it's a 2017. But you can play it on BGA too. You can give it a try on there. And it's a really good implementation on there. But it's such a nice, pretty easy, easy to learn, I should say. Abstract strategy game, but a tough one to master. But I love it. And that's my number 39, Seikatsu.
Nice. My number 38 is Imhotep. This one was published in 2016, and it's a Phil Walker Harding game. And it is so neat. So it's Egyptian themed. And everybody have these bricks of their own color. And they're brown and black and gray and tan or something. And these are big. They're little tokens that you'll have, but they're chunky. They're much bigger than any other kind of cubes you'll come across in any other games. So, and you would have your quarry, so you can bring bricks onto your quarry and then you can place them. So each round you'll flip over a card that tells you, okay, these are the boats that are coming out, and you can kind of have these boats that are going to go up the Nile and kind of send them at a different task that you can do in Egypt, basically. And you're putting these cubes onto the boat, depending on the boat. Now each boat has once you've reached at least this, you can ship it out, or you can fill the boat as well, right? So, and there's these different size boat, and then there's different actions you can do. So one of them is you can go and you can send your bricks to build a pyramid, and you're going to build the base, and depending on where you're putting your bricks, how much points you get, and then you're going to do the second layer of the pyramid and so on. And that's going to give you point every time you place your brick. But some location on the pyramid is going to give you more points. So at the temple with the clusters, and you're trying to get as big a cluster as you can and stop other people's clusters. And then there's one that's you're building a wall. And the wall is going to score looking down. So you're trying to have the most of your bricks showing, looking from bird's eye view, down onto this wall. So you're trying to have the most brick there. And then you can also go to the market where you can get cards, and that'll give you either scoring points or different abilities or different things that you can do. but it's so interesting. And then it would be like, so on your turn, you either bring bricks into your quarry, or you place bricks onto these boat, or you ship the boat. And it could be like, oh my God, okay, they got three bricks on this one boat, and if they go to the pyramid, that's really gonna mess me up. So I'm gonna, on my turn, ship their boat, even though I don't have a cube on it because the minimum has been met, and send this boat to the wall. So then, because they're already, it's going to cover their own bricks when they put, so it's not going to give them that much point, and be like, oh, why did you do that to me? I was like, I don't know. But while the boat is out there, now that you can't do that action anymore either, right? So there's some of that where you're kind of trying to maximize what you're trying to accomplish and minimize what the other player is trying to accomplish, and then you're kind of, it is neat. It is so cool. I really like this one, so that's why Imhotep is my number 38.
That's awesome. I still have to try this one at some point. It always sounds so cool. Mm-hmm. All right, my number 38. Now, this one was one of the games where I said, okay, I did my whole list, and then I just scoured my games again.
Right.
A couple of friends' lists, and to make sure I didn't miss any of my precious babies. And then all of a sudden I saw one, I'm like, oh, how did that not get on my list? So I had to plug it in. So that's this one. And that's Chinatown, made in 1999
nice.
By Karsten Hartwig. Now, I love this one. And this one, to me, feels like it takes over the family version. Well, I think I've said that for another game as well. I can't remember what game, but I feel like it takes over like Monopoly did, where, everybody you just like, every once in a while this is how we used to do it. We'd be like, let's pull up Monopoly and play. And then you would kind of all get mad at each other because somebody's winning everything. And you'd always end up like, there's some hard feelings there. Well, this one takes that over, but it's so fun. And it's the negotiating, I feel, that gets, you get a bit argumentative. Like I would always play, when I play with my family, my son always felt like he was getting screwed over.
Right.
Like, I don't feel like this is a good deal. And I'm like, no, it's a great deal. Like, you're going to be able to do this and this and this. And he was getting good deals because he always wins. I don't know how. I usually am the best negotiator in the family, so I don't know how he wins. I think I'm like actually getting the best deal out of things, but apparently I'm not. But it's so fun. All you're doing is pulling chips out of a bag. Well, first you have cards that I can't remember if you draft them or if you just draw them. No, you draw them. Everybody gets a hand of cards. And then you will place your chips on these little plots. So it's like a little, not a grid, but the board has like, say, an A25 or whatever. I'm not sure of the exact letters, but then you place your colored chip on that plot. So you own that plot. And then I believe, now I can't remember if it's before you pull the chips out or after, you can negotiate and trade some of the property, like your where your chips are, or sell them or whatnot. I can't remember if you can do that before or after. But anyway, you would pull out these chips, and they are all different buildings. And they're in Chinatown, so you're building like sushi shops. Wow, say that fast. And flower shops and jewelry places, different restaurants. But what you're trying to do is get the whole set collection of them. Some of them only need 3, some need 4, some 5, and I believe some 6. And of course, the higher the collection, the more money you are going to get paid out when you get income. But nobody's going to want to let you take over an area with 6. There's ways you do end up getting it sometime, because, if you're like, okay, well, I'll give you that one if that's going to give you a 6, and if you give me this one. But it doesn't happen that often that you get those big ones, because they pay out big, like I think 200,000 or 180,000 or something. But it's just fun, the negotiating and trying to, negotiate kind of 3 ways where you're like, okay, I know you want that, so I'm going to deal over here with him to get that so that I can negotiate what you have for this. But then they're trying to trade back and forth, and it's just so funny, and we just get really riled up about it and in our trading and negotiating, and it's just fun. This one, it doesn't matter to me if I win ever. I just love the actual journey of it and playing it and just sometimes you pull up your cards and you've got like 3 of them right together. Like, so there's some luck involved too, by the way the cards get dealt. But it's just a fun game and so easy to teach, you know, like I think I taught it right there. Putting your chips down on your property, dealing, and putting the buildings on, and dealing, and wheeling and dealing. And that's basically the game. But it's such a fun and unique theme. Like, it's the theme, I mean, by the Chinatown and just building all those little tiny buildings that are really close together. It's so cool. They could, you know, retheme this into like multiple different things and probably sell multiple different games of this. But it's so neat, and I love it. That's my number 38, Chinatown. Yeah,
that one is neat. It's like pure negotiation. That's the mechanism in this game. Yeah. Nice, I like it. My number 37 is a game I have only played once 2 years ago at the Board Game Bash of Blood in 2020. And it's Gugong. It was published in 2018. It's created by Andreas Steding. And I just remember we played it the one time and it was so cool. So you have this big board and it's worker placement. You can go from one location to the other and then you're activating these different things. It's Asian theme. But what was really interesting is the whole card mechanism. So you would go into one location where there's a card and you would need to play a card that's higher than that card in order to be able to go and do the action there. So you're kind of trying to plan out which card you would use where. Say, okay, well, I'll go, that's a big gap. I could use a smaller card there. So I can use my bigger card elsewhere, like you're negotiating. But when you trade the card to go and do the action, you take the old card that was there. So then you're like, oh, but then I have to take this. You know, like, so the whole thing was so interesting. And there was all these different things that you were doing. And there was like the track at the top. And then there was like, was it like the path you were creating around at the bottom? Like the whole thing was so cool. And like I said, I've only played this the one time. I don't own this game or I would have played it again. But that one time I played it, this game have left an impression enough that it made it my top 15. And I'm like writing down my list to do. I was like, really? Like it's made it this high, being that had only. But it was neat. The whole game, the whole feel of it. Like I just have such a good memory of this game. I was like, oh yeah, that one was good. So that's my number 37, Gugong.
What made you think of it to put on your list? Like when you were going through
your
names?
I'm going through the thing and you know what, honestly, like and I was like, oh yeah, that one was neat. Okay, I'll put it on there. And every time it popped in between this and this, and I was like, oh yeah, that one was neat. As I would click on it. Like, so obviously, like the experience I had like had I played this game the first time with somebody that was really annoying to play with or something, it might not have made it as high as it did. But the game experience of this one was so good that my memory of it is like, oh yeah, that game was so neat. Like, so it sneaked up there. Yeah,
this is a good game. This did not make my list because I don't own it. I've only played it once, just like you. But when you said that, I'm like, oh, that is such a good game. It left an impression on me too.
Yeah,
a friend had brought it and said, okay, I want us to play this. And I think I'd kind of heard a few things and I was just like, okay, whatever. I'm not really into this game, but he put it out, described it, and he had the deluxe copy. So it had these like
nice
smooth jade gems. And,
right.
Oh, it was awesome. And then I was like, oh, I like this. Like just the whole mechanisms, and it was just so beautiful. And I think he had the little, well, maybe that was an expansion at the bottom. I thought he added something, but maybe not. But yeah, it's a good one. And now I want to play that one again.
Right? I gotta find it.
Yeah. You don't see this on the used market much.
I wonder why.
Like, I think I've seen it once. Someone was gonna, like, they were trading or offered a trade, and I was like, oh, I think I have to get the deluxe now if I ever get one, because I played the deluxe. But yeah, you don't see it often. Good one. All right, my number 37 is Tiletum, and this is a brand new one to me, and this is one of the T games made in 2022 by Simone Luciani and Daniele Tassini. These two are two of my favorite designers. They've designed so many games that I love. Grand Austria Hotel, Voyages of Marco Polo, Lorenzo, Zulkin. There's the new one coming out, Darwin's Journey, which I'm waiting for on Kickstarter. They've done so many good games. I love the way they do mechanics. This one is themed by kind of you're doing, is it not carnivals. I can't think of the word. It's shows, I'm going to say, but there's a different word for it. But what you're doing is you have these little, you start these little, you have a architect and a wagon, I'm going to say, you start in Tiletum, and you will move out around this map. And what you're trying to do is build houses and columns. And each of them do give you different things, or like points, depending on what the scoring is for each round. Now, the rounds will, each round you will score a certain thing, but they change from game to game. You have a whole bunch of different tiles that you can mix and match depending on points and depending on what the actual scoring will be and depending on which location. So I don't know if you'll ever play the same game twice. So that really changes that. But the real cool thing is the way you draft your dice. You have this wheel that goes 1 to 6, and so you'll roll all these different colored dice depending on player count, and then you'll place them on the numbers. So if you roll a bunch of 3s, they all go in the 3s, 4s, etc. Then you will choose one of the dice. So depending on the color you choose, that's the resources you'll get, and whatever number on the pips are, that's the resource you'll get. So if you have a 6 pink, you will get 6 food. But because the 6 is always at a spot with 1 action, so it kind of always goes that way. A 2 will always be at a place with 5 actions. So you'll get a lot of resources, but you only get 2 actions at what it's at. So there's 6 different actions, and there's 5 different resources. So you could have all different, you can get gold, stone, iron, wool, and food. So I guess there's 5. But it's so neat because you have to get resources, but you want to do all these actions. So of course you want to take that 6, but then you only get 1 action. So at some point you might take 1 resource, because then you're going to get 6 actions. But then you don't have the resources to do it. So it's like one of those, okay, what do I do? Do I take a 3 so I get 4, and a 4 I get 3? But what you need to do is there's all these different objectives you can fulfill if you use the objective action. You can choose these objectives and then wait till you have the resources, fulfill them, and then they will bump off one of your columns that you can use later to put out on the map. You can go and build a cathedral at one of these locations on the map, but you would need to have your architect there in order to do it, or have a column. You can move up on this nasty track at the bottom. This is the only bad thing about the game, is that there's this track at the bottom that if you don't go to one of the action spots to move yourself up, this thing moves back every round depending on what chip is pulled. You'll pull 3 chips in a full round because everyone gets 3 turns per round, and you will start moving backwards. And if you haven't used an action to move up, you're going to start getting negative points at the end of the round, and it can go all the way to like 10. So and if you are, and it also makes it decides the turn order for the next round. So if you don't move up, you're always going to be last and losing points. So that is like a double negative because you need to go there. You need to use at least one of your actions to go there. The other neat thing is the objectives. There's another place where you can go to get people that you put in your house, and you line them up in different floors. They all have bonuses on them too. So when you've either completed one of these little objectives or placed one of these people in your house, they give you bonuses to either move around your things on the map, move up the nasty track. It's just all a big game of combos. So it's made for me, I think. I think they designed this game for me.
Especially for you.
Yeah, but it's awesome, and I could go on, and it's such a good game. People keep saying, oh, it too bad it doesn't look nice, because the box cover is just beautiful. It looks like this big medieval carnival going on kind of thing in the market. But then you open the board is just kind of a beigey map. I mean, your pieces are colorful, but to me, I love it. I love the beige. I love the medieval kind of theme, and I don't know. It's just a game for me, and I love it. That's my number 37, Tiletum.
Nice. My number 36 is a game that I purchased at FallCon this past fall. Well, I guess summer, fall. And that's the Transcontinental. It's published in 2022, and it's created by Glenn Dresser. And he was there. This was just about to be released by Kickstarter, and he had a bunch of copies, and then the FallCon had been moved for earlier, so we ended up having to sell them there. Otherwise he'd be stuck with all of his copies, right? But so I bought one, and he was set up, he was teaching the game, you could go and play the game, but that weekend I volunteered almost the entire time, so I never got a chance to go check out this game and play it. And he was the winner of the Canadian game designer of the previous year or whatever, and so it was cool. So it looked cool. So I bought the game. I bought the neoprene mat. I bought all that he had there. So, and my friend Michael came over one day, and he's like, "Hey, well, what do you want to play?" And I was like, "Well, have you played this one? I'd like to try it." And the neoprene mat was cool because the setup of this game is extensive. It takes a while to get everything set up. So you have all these tiles that goes along the train track. So basically you're building the Transcontinental train track across Canada. So the fact that it's Canadian history based was really cool. Plus in the box, one of the book is the history of it all. So not that I'm a history buff or anything, but I thought that touch was super cool. So, and you put all these tiles over, and they kind of stagger so that from the main track. So when all the space of the main track is going to have two of these tiles touching that space on the bottom and on the top. And you're building the railroad. So you're trying to get goods down this railroad, so when you reach the end, you can kind of build further in. That's the main goal. But as you go along the way, you can also spend some of them to build and kind of take ownership of the tiles that are on the bottom and on the top. So you're kind of acquiring business or industries or businesses along this railroad so that you can do different things and then be okay, well, I'm here, so I'm going to activate this location. And all the locations have a public action that everybody can do, whether they have an interest, a business on this tile or not. But if you've bought interest on the tile and you have your business on there, then you have more action you can activate when you're on that spot. And it's kind of worker placement, and you can move along the line kind of however far you want, and then okay, I'm going to activate this gives me this, so now I have more of these resources, so I'm acquiring new tracks that's going to go on this train, and you're building the train. So but if you buy a resource that's not on the train and the train's already going down this path, it can't get added to the train because the train's already gone. So it's kind of gets put into the train yard, waiting for the train to return, and then that would get added onto the train at that point, and so on. It's just neat. This is not a simple game. There's a lot going on. There's a lot you got to consider, and then you get to the end of the track, and then you can add further so that the train track gets longer, and then it comes back. And then you go, and so basically you just kind of go back and forth along this Transcontinental, trying to make it longer and longer, and you're trying to build the train track so it'll reach from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. We didn't really get the chance, because it's a longer game as well, and we ran out of time, so we didn't fully finish this game, but the whole gameplay was impressive. It was neat. There was a lot to kind of consider and think about. And I like economic games, and this one kind of has that feel to it, but it's unique. I haven't come across anything that have that feel, and it was great. So that's my number 36, the Transcontinental.
This one looks so pretty too. Mm-hmm. I sat down and he kind of gave me a demo at FallCon, and it still didn't sink in. I didn't really get it, but it looked so the colors and the aesthetic of the game is just, it's so attractive to me anyway. It looks beautiful, but it's good to hear that. Wait, how long did you say the game was?
How long does it play? Let me see here.
How many
Because I know
players did you play with?
Sorry?
How many players did you play?
It was me, Michael, and Glenda, so we were 3.
Okay. 3 of you.
Let's see here. It says that it plays 75 to 150 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
So
no,
that's longer for a game, right?
I mean, typically, like, so kind of, was it more of a 2-hour-ish, or was it pushing?
Well, and like I said, we never finished it because we ran out of time and they had to leave.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how long it would have taken us, because at the same time, there's this thing on the West Coast that kind of moves towards. So when this match, the train track, how far as you went, and that thing that kind of moves a bit matched, that's what triggers the end of the game. So we never got to that. But yeah, no, it was a really neat game.
Awesome. All right, so my number 36 is Great Western Trail, Argentina. Now, this was made in this year, 2022, by Alexander Pfister. I've only played this once, but I feel like it's like almost a game to Great Western Trail that like Brass Birmingham is to Lancashire.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's an add-on to the game. He really could have just put in this as an expansion and then added it to the main game, but he made a whole other game of it, and he's making a third one too that's going to add sheep. This one adds shipping
okay.
like overseas kind of thing. So it's really cool though. It almost could overtake the first one, except the first one with an expansion is awesome too. So anyway, what you're doing here is you are moving along, and I will say it's a rondel, but you're kind of going up through this path and then back to the beginning and then up through this path again. And what you're doing up on this Great Western Trail is you are moving your little cowboy, and you are getting landing on different buildings to do different actions. You only have certain movement at the beginning, but you can increase that movement. You can build buildings so you can add more to the path that can cause people to have to pay when they stop by your spot or pass it. It can be a really cool tile for you to land on, because only you will be able to do that action. If they landed there, they'd only be able to do an auxiliary action, which was just like a minor one. But it's such a neat game. The buildings are cool, and you can only build if you have builders. In this game, it's kind of like they're Spanish terms, so I can't remember what they're called. They're such beautiful names. I wish I could remember and say them, but because they just float off your tongue, and I wish I could say them. But anyway, so there are builders that will. The more builders you have, the better buildings you can build, I'll say. Now, the other things you can do is you can buy cattle. Now, you will need another beautiful name, but I'm going to call them cowboys. You'll need more cowboys to buy better cattle or more cattle. And those are straight points. So are the buildings. So you can kind of go different routes, building hard or, buying a lot of cattle. You can also hire engineers, and that will make your train go a lot faster. And then you'll get to the end faster, which lets you, gives you options of better bonuses and things, lets you deliver or ship to better places. You can also, which is different from the main game, where they had, now I can't remember what they're called. They were tents and hazards. And the hazards were only used to fulfill your objectives or to block people and make them pay. But these ones they use as a type of cowboy that you can take off and use as objectives, but you can also hire these guys and put them on your player board. And anytime you hire any of these, the builders, the cowboys, the engineers, or the worker cowboys, they will go on your board and give you bonuses as well. And if you can build them up to kind of the end of the spot, you'll get big points. At the end of the trail, you're always delivering your cattle. So in this one, you will be shipping them. So it depends where and how many you have. And you always need unique cattle. So you have to have different types. The more, the better. At the beginning of the game, you can only have 4 cards in your hand, but there's ways to build up, being able to hold more cards. And then you will choose which boats to put those on, depending on, you also have, there's wheat in this one, and you have to have acquired wheat in order to put them on the ship. So it's added some new, unique mechanics, and it's really neat. But yeah, it's another masterpiece of his. I love it. I've only played it once. That's why it's this high up. I can see it moving down and possibly overtaking Great Western Trail for me. But for now, this is where it is. Number 36. Great Western Trail, Argentina.
Nice. Excuse me. My number 35 is the one that I mistook for another game. So the whole time I'm going through this, I'm like, oh yeah, this one is so good. Oh yeah, this one is so good. And I'm kind of bidding it up and up and up. And then when I went to write down this thing and I brought it up, I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's not the game. So, and that's, well, the game I thought it was is Arkham Horror. The game that I was voting on was Edritch Horror. The whole Cthulhu game series thing, there's a lot of them out there, and the names are similar. So I've played Edritch Horror one time in like 2017, so I don't, and we've barely made through the first round. And that's the one where you have the big map, and it was cool, but it was too big of a game for where I was at the time, that we were just, I was like, okay, I can tell this would be good, but it wasn't a full game experience, so it can't even count it for anything. But the one I have played is Arkham Horror, and that's published in 2018. It's created by Nikki Valens, Richard Lonius, and Kevin Wilson. And this game is amazing, and it looks cool, and it's the Cthulhu horror theme, and it's modular, so you have all these different locations that you kind of build a map with. So you'll build a connection between the location and create this big community. Like you're creating Arkham, the town of Arkham, but you'll play different scenarios, and then it'll change the map around. And you have your paranormal detective that you are, and basically you're trying to stop the cultist from bringing in Cthulhu into our world, right? So you're trying to stop that. And it kind of has a bit of a pandemic feel to it, because you're going around bringing, like, flipping cards over, bringing cultists into it, and you're trying to get this under control and stop them at the same time. But then at one point there'll be a card that'll take all of those cards that just came out, shuffle them, and kind of put them back up there. So that creates that pandemic like mechanism where it's like, great, all these things that were out of control are back on top now, and then it's like, this is gonna be bad, right? But it has that feel to it, but it looks amazing. The board is so cool, the way that it's all modular, and then you're creating all this, and then you're going from location. And this is a cooperative game. It's like, okay, that area is falling out of sight. Okay, I'm on my way there. And then, so it's neat. I really enjoy this one, and that's why it's my number 35, Arkham Horror.
Awesome. My number 35 is one of the games, in my resolution where I said, don't buy every single version of a game.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of the versions of one of my top games. This is Castles of Tuscany, made in 2020 by Stefan Feld. Actually, isn't the version, it's sort of a sister game to it, but I'm still going to count it kind of in that category. To me, it feels like a smaller board game version of Castles of Burgundy. And a lot of people, this hasn't got a lot of buzz, this game, but I love it. My husband likes it. I think that helps because I get to play it lots.
Yeah.
And it's so quick. It's played in a half hour. I mean, that's how we play it. It's such a quick game, but it feels like I'm getting the Castles of Burgundy feel out of it. So in this one, you are building up your little duchy. I don't think it's called duchy in this one, but that's what it's called in the main one. So I'm going to call it that, with these little hexagon tiles. And how you do that is you will draft these tiles from a middle market. And you will take one of the tiles, and depending on the color, first it'll go in your little storage spot. But after you have played it, you'll play it onto your duchy, and then you get a bonus depending on what color you've played. Then you take a tile from your stack and you put it into the middle, and that's the timer of the game. So you both have these even number of stacks of tiles. You don't know what they are because they're flipped over. But once you flip one into the market, then it's available for everybody. So what you're doing is trying to fill up your board and get all those actions. They're very similar actions like in the main one where you can get more workers, you can get another action, you can get more... this one is cards for resources. So, because you need, in order to build your tiles, you need a bunch of resources instead of dice. There's no dice in this one. The card mechanic is really neat to me as well, because you are just set collecting these cards, but you can always use 2 for one color, and you always need 2 of the same color in order to put your chip down or your tile down. And then it's just trying to figure out again how you want to combo all the actions, or if you want to go for one color and get a bunch of the same thing. You can increase the size of your storage. You can increase your actions by getting different increased actions. And the scoring is kind of unique in this one too, because there's 2 round tracks. So the first one is you score in the first round. You score this many points. Then in the second round, you keep moving that one, and then you'll score that plus the one in the middle. So you're always kind of getting whatever the outer one is plus what you already have in the middle. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a different type of scoring. It's probably been done in some of his other games that I've maybe not played yet, but it's just so neat. And it's just a little taste of Castle Burgundy to me, but played in a smaller time, but still feels like a board game version. So it's not just a card or not a dice.
Right.
But an actual smaller board game version of it. And I love it. That's my number 35, Castles of Tuscany.
Nice. I'll have to give that one a try. I've played Castle of Burgundy a few times and I enjoy it, but it'd be interesting to give that a try. Okay. My number 34 is Civilization: A New Dawn. This one was published in 2017. It's a James Niffen game. So I have a thing for Civilization games. I buy a lot of them. I think I have 4 or 5 or 6 possibly in my collection of Civ games. Possibly more. There's some card versions but most of them are unplayed because Civilization games aren't easy games to get to the table. There tend to be bigger, larger games, and it's like quite the commitment. And to kind of find people that be like, hey, want to sit at the table for the next 4 hours? It's like on this one game, like it's not always appealing, and you could try to trick them into it, but that would be wrong. So Civilization: A New Dawn, though, is neat, and this one plays like fairly quick as far as a Civilization game goes. And the gameplay is fairly straightforward. I had played Through the Ages with my brother, and it took us all morning just to learn and get through a couple of rounds. But with this Civilization: A New Dawn, it's just so well streamlined and it looks great. So you're one of the civilization, you have this map, you set your city on these location, and the one city allows you to kind of send a caravan from your location where you can go out and kind of go to these other cities and trade and get these things. And you can build up your army, and you can, like, it's all these things. But the action selection on this is you have a board and you have all these different actions, and as you do an action, everything slides up, and then it kind of rotates through. And then from what I understand, this is very similar to the action selection of Arc Nova. And then the higher that it gets, the more powerful the action is. And like, it's really the more different terrain that you can kind of apply this action to and this different thing. And then if you ever get to the position where your one city and the other cities that you've built, if they've been completely surrounded, well, this city now has the capability of being able to send your caravan from there so you can reach further. And it's neat. I like this. It plays quick. The whole action selection thing, the game looks great because you have these little 3D kind of pieces that's like the cities, and then all these, like, you actually have a little caravan that you kind of send out. Like, it looks amazing. It's a fun game. I love it. So it's my number 34, Civilization: A New Dawn.
Yeah, that action selection is so cool. I'm glad somebody used it in another game as well. I love it. It's awesome. Good one. All right, my number 34 is made in 2022, and that's Framework by
nice.
Uwe Rosenberg. So this one is one of his not polyomino series, but a tile laying series. This is kind of after Nobeluna, Sagani, and then Framework. I love this game. It's just a tile laying game. You just get a box full of cardboard tiles, and that's really all you need in this game. And on the tiles, there are little frames in different colors, and then little gems, I'm going to say circles, really. But depending how you play them is how you're going to win the game. What you need to do is fulfill all the tiles that need fulfillment. So one tile might need to have 5 red frames, 2 silver that are, it's touching. So you can connect like say I needed 5 silver, I could have 1 silver connecting and then 4 more connecting to that in some way. That would fulfill that goal. I would also, and like I said, I needed 3 red. I could do that on the other side of the tile. So it's all a big giant puzzle because those tiles might work for some other tiles that need those frames. It's such a neat game, and all you're trying to do is just get rid of your chips or little discs right, that you use to cover up, and then that's how you win the game. There's no scoring. It's just whoever does it first. That's it. They win. It's weird because it's an abstract strategy game, really in the core, but it makes my heart race because it's like, I look around the table. Oh, she's got 3 left. I have 4, and she's got 2. I need to figure out a way to get these on. So it's still a race. It's a race game.
It's still, a race, but game.
In an abstract strategy form, which
that's not how I remember it though. I remember it. I have like a fistful yet, and you're down to 2. Oh, like, yeah, how did this happen? What has she been doing?
I think you might have thought maybe that was Cherry. Cherry always wins this game. I don't know if I beat her at this game yet, but she loves this game too. But it's fun. I love it. And such a simple concept, but so fun. My number 34, Framework.
Nice. My number 33 is based on a video game that I have never played. So the IP is obviously not what's drawing me in here, but this is Fallout. And Fallout was created in 2017 by Andrew Fisher and Nathan Hajek. And this one is so neat. Like, it's very story driven, and I think I like that in game because every time I was like, oh yeah, that's cool, and you're on, like, they tend to do well in my list. But so you have the map. Most of it is tiles face down, so you're gonna have to go and explore this map to discover things. And there's going to be different monsters that gets brought out all the time, and you kind of flip a card and it'll be like, oh, this is an insect monster, so you'll put one of those tiles out on the location that they show up, or then they move towards the characters that are on the board. And it's funny, like the artwork of it, because it's kind of apocalyptic, and then it's dark, but some of the artwork is like very cartoony and bright, and it's kind of like it doesn't match, but they have this together somehow. And it's like, I think Coke bottle caps is the money in this game. So cool. Like it the whole, like, and I'm sure if you played the video game, you'd be like, well, yeah, of course that's how it works. But and then you've got different items you can collect that will kind of give you different abilities and different things that you can do. You're trying to collect tokens that have letters on it to spell out special, and then depending on what happens, like, you'll have the battle and be like, hey, you're battling this one, but if you have the S, you get an extra reroll. And then you have these dice that have body parts on it. Like, well, it's more like an outline of a body, but part of it is colored in. So, and maybe I'm battling this insect monster, and then it's like his weak spot is in the head, so I'm trying to hit him in the head. So I'll roll the dice, and I'm trying to roll dice that have the head area colored in. But some of those dice will have asterisks as well, and the asterisk is the monster hitting me back. So the whole kind of that battle aspect is neat with the dice. I mean, and it is dice, so you can kind of try to get more letters so you can get more reroll. But if you're one of those person who don't like a luck aspect in your game, this isn't gonna be great for you. But what I really like is the whole story aspect of it, because you have these cards you'll be drawing says, okay, great, so you go into this city, and then it'll be like, great, you're in this city, and then you notice you're in the market, and somebody's is kicking this dog and is shooing him away. Do you help the dog, or do you just walk on your merry way, or whatever? So, well, I'm going to try to help the dog. Okay, well, then you kind of roll to see if you're successful. You do something to see if you're successful helping the dog. And then if you're like, okay, well, you weren't successful helping the dog, this card goes back in there somewhere, so somebody else at some point can help this dog. Or it's like, okay, well, you did help this dog, so they'll go through the cards and pull in card 37 and card 42 and 43, and those get added in the deck, and then you shuffle them in. So at some point, something's going to happen with what you've decided here. Now, had you decide the other way, it'd be different cards that would get brought into the deck. So the story changes and goes differently every round. And you can kind of do things that makes you kind of go dark as a dark character. Like, Lee came across one, is like, okay, you come across this one person and you're in this area, and then she's like, okay, well, let's divide and conquer, and then we can look together and share the loot. It's like, okay, so do you agree to work with her, or do you just rob her? He robbed her. Like, and I was like, oh my god. And like, so his character is becoming like meaner and darker, and it's kind of affecting his thing, but he got more loot out of it, right? But it's like, okay, so, and you're going around and you're trying to, like, you have these goals, and then there's different scenarios that you can play that will have kind of different sets of cards, but then you're trying to find this bunker, and then you also kind of choose your allegiance as you play. Like, there's two military or government group that is happening, and you kind of pick, or depending on what you do will kind of affect your allegiance, but that's kept mostly secret. But as you play and do these different actions, some of the allegiance is going to be ahead, and it's going to give you victory points if you're on the right allegiance, that one, and so on. The whole, like, it's really neat. It's like you're in a movie that you're living through, right? Like, the story aspect is so strong in this game. I really enjoyed it. And it's kind of neat how what you decide to do will directly affect the game and what comes out in the game. So I like that. That's my number 33, Fallout.
Awesome. That sounds so cool. All right, my number 33 is another new one. This is Planet Unknown, made in 2022 by Ryan Lambert and Adam Rayberg. This one came out, I think at the beginning of the year, or maybe middle. You got to play it at Gobfest, was it?
Right.
Yeah. And I was so jealous. I was playing a different game. I look over and there's Mel playing. That's the Planet Unknown. I want to try that one. But...
No, it was FalCon, yeah. At FalCon.
FalCon.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was August. So maybe it was halfway through the year it came out. It's pretty new then, I think. But anyway, it is such a cool game. It's a polyomino tile laying game. But what's so neat about it is you can have a 6-player game. How many did you play with?
I think we were like top player count.
Yeah.
So 6 or 5.
How long did it take you?
I don't remember how long it took, but because everybody does everything at the same time,
you do it at the same time.
Yeah.
It shouldn't really prolong the game whether you're playing 2-3 or 5-6, because you have this little lazy Susan tile holder in the middle of the board. And on your turn, you pick a tile or the person gets to choose which side they want on theirs. So they spin it around and they're like, okay, I want one of these options. There's always 2 tiles in front of you that you can choose from. So then everybody else, where they're seated, which line is in front of them, they get to choose one of those 2 tiles. So you just pick up your tile, all of you at the same time, place it on your board, and then complete the bonuses depending what you've connected or what you've placed. So you have all these different tracks that you can move up. And depending what tile you placed, what color, you will get to move up these different tracks. And there's so many neat things about it because as you move up these tracks, on every few lines, you'll get other bonuses to move up other tracks. Or they'll give you some resource, or they'll give you a little, what is the thing the rover?
Yeah.
Right? It's called the rover. Give you this little rover that you put on your board, and he moves around. You move him around with one of your actions and he collects little meteors or, what's the other thing he collects? I'm trying to think. I can't remember. It's
right. I remember the meteors. I don't know what else he would.
The blue things. But anyway, so then once you collect them, they go onto your board, and those are end game points. Then there's also these objectives you're trying to fill. So you're also trying to make patterns with these tiles and trying to connect certain colors. So you're trying to do that as well as like get up these tracks as fast as you can. I've only still played with just the base boards because they come with all these boards that all have the same, but if you flip them over, they all have different abilities.
Yeah.
So it's so cool. And then, so that's just your player board that you're manipulating. But then there's also your player map that is the basic, but if you flip over, is all different from everybody else's. So, and yours might have some way that you can't do things, but then you can do something else better than everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's such a cool game, and it can be played. I think it's an hour game typically, like maybe a little bit longer with 6, just if there's some more AP in there.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Seems to me it wasn't
cool.
super long, but
yeah, no, it's awesome. I love it. And that one will definitely be staying in my collection. It's unique too. Mm-hmm. It's a space theme, and here I am getting another space game that I said I never liked space theme. I mean, of course I would have loved if it was a different theme, but it works with this one because it makes a lot of sense with how they've designed it and everything.
Yeah.
So cool. My number 33, Planet Unknown.
Yeah, we played with everybody having different abilities, different powers, and different.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, which was great. Like my ability was like water allowed my water track went through all the other tracks as well. So the more water I got, the more
zigzag.
So I could activate things faster,
bonus.
Which was great. Nice. But my planet had a black hole in the middle. So I didn't have a planet, I had a black hole, and I'm trying to build around it. Because you score if you have like all of your things filled in a line. So you're trying to create these line that kind of builds from across the board without meteorites in the way, because you don't score if they're there. And I have to navigate around this humongous black hole. So I lost so bad. Like, yeah, I was able to move up my track thing, but this black hole is so hard to navigate around that and I had like my rovers all stuck in the same corner. It's like, oh, I should have split them up better, but it was great. Great pick. My number 32 is a game I played for the first time at Melcon when I did Melcon at my house, and it was like a small private event, and that's Viticulture. So played Viticulture, that was published in 2015. It's created by Jamie Stegmaier and Alan Stone. And I played it for the first time, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And I went and bought my own copy the next week. And this one is neat. Like, it's a worker placement about running a vineyard and making wine. And you can make red wine and white wine and rosé, and you're trying to kind of buy the plants, grow the grapes, kind of ferment the grapes, and then do all this stuff to make your wine, and then age your wine, and then get it to the stage where you can sell it and fulfill contracts. And the whole thing is very interesting. And what was really neat, though, is you have all these workers, and you can, use as much as you want in the summer portion. But you got to make sure you save some for the winter portion, because there's different action that happens there that you may have to do, but sometimes you kind of get caught up, like, oh, I could do this too. Oh, and I can go do this. And then like you can build these different buildings that are going to give you different things you're able to do on your own player board, and it's neat. It's interesting with you don't want to spend too much workers in the summer month if you want to try to accomplish these in the winter month. And I really, really enjoyed it. And it's like, an economic game, which I mentioned I enjoy because you're running your vineyard business and you gotta, all these different aspects you gotta juggle and try to come out the best. And it's so cool. And that's my number 32, Viticulture.
Yes, such an awesome game. You'll be hearing about that from me later on, for sure. All right. My number 32 is another one of those games that I have the big version, and this is a smaller version. But I said there is a few that are the exception to the rule, and this is another one. And that is Istanbul Dice, made in 2017 by Rudiger Dorn. This one is so awesome, just like the big game, but this is a quicker version of it. And a little bit different, tiny bit different. You still have the main objective of you have to get these 6 rubies, depending how many players you have. And that's it. That's the game. There's no points. There's no scoring. You're just trying to get these rubies and win the game. So it's a race. But it's a Euro way of doing it. So how you do that is you have to gather all these different resources and then fulfill like the different things that they need for you to get a ruby. So you might have to have like 5 green resources. You might have to have so much money to get resources or to get a ruby. Another way is to have multiple different colored resources. There's a few different ways of getting it, but how you do that is you roll dice each round. So you have a turn, you roll your dice, and if you have these blue gems, you can re-roll dice. Now what you do is you have 2 actions. You can use the dice in any way you want. Depending what you've rolled, you can use the cards, like they'll have a card face on one of the pips, and depending how many of those you rolled, you can pick up that many cards, but you can only ever keep 1. But the cards will either give you resources, gems. Some will even give you rubies if you have a certain thing. And some will just give you money. There's, you could roll the pips that are just money they show on them. And if you rolled all the 5 dice that had money, you'd get $10 right there. So the first gem is maybe like $15. You're really close to already getting the first ruby. You might roll just the plain colors, which will give you the resources. You might roll something that will give you one of the cool bonus tiles that gives you something each round. It might give you a new dice each round. It might give you money before you start your turn. It might give you a resource each turn. It's just so cool. And it's just a little puzzle you're trying to figure out how to do most efficiently to get the rubies first. And so fun. I love it. My number 32, Istanbul Dice.
Nice. I played this one once with Lily because I bought it secondhand because you rave about it so much. And then I got the board game recently that I haven't played yet. So I'm excited to give that a try as well. Great choice. My number 31, and that's the final one for this episode. And this one is Camel Up. And that one was published in 2018, and it's created by Stefan Bogan. And I played this one actually just a few weeks ago with my siblings. And this game, first of all, has amazing table presence. Like, you open the board, and there's this big pop-up oasis that, like, creates this whole 3D things on the table. Then you have this plastic pyramid that you put the dice in that you shake, and you push it on the side of it, and the dice comes out the bottom. So, like, the whole thing, the way that it looks, and that's kind of gets put into the middle of the board, and that looks great. And then you have all the different colored camels that'll stack on top of each other, nice big chunky components, and then that looks great. So the whole game visually is so pleasing and has such great table presence. It's neat. Plus, it's great because it's not a party game. It's a game, but it'll play up to 8 players, which is nice that you have a game that'll accommodate this much. And it's a racing game, but you're not racing to win. There's a camel race going on, and you're bidding on it is happening, and you're trying to bid on the winning camel. But you're bidding on the rounds what's happening, and then you're bidding also on the winner and the loser of the whole race. And if you bid correctly, you get money. If you don't bid correctly, or you're like a little bit off, you just get a little bit of money. If you bid wrong completely, you pay money. But so on your turn, you have different options of what you can do. You can bid on the round, or you can bid on the main game, or you can move a spectator so that it'll affect kind of the movement of the camels on the game, or you can go in the middle, collect a coin, and then shake the pyramid and kind of get one of the camel to race. And I think each round 5 camel move, so not necessarily all of them are going to move. Now, 2 of these camels, the white camel and the black camel, are crazy camels, and these ones are going backwards on the track. And the other camels are going the right way. So you're going to shake the thing, you kind of move, and let's say you're moving the green camel. Well, the green camel has the yellow camel on top of it, so when you move the green camel, the yellow camel goes along as well. So it's kind of like, oh, well, I wasn't counting on yellow to move, but there it is, it's moved forward. It's like, okay, well, I was thinking the green was going to do better, but technically the yellow's in the lead because he's on top. And then so it has that interesting thing on depending on how the camels ended up being stacked as to what's going to move forward or what's going to win that round of the race. And then if one of those camel lands on one of the crazy camel, so you have the red camel that landed on the white camel, but then the white camel move and he's going backwards, so he's dragging that red camel backwards a couple of steps as well. It's like, well, gosh, he was in the lead and now he's like all the way in the back. Or it's interesting. It is neat. It's easy to play. It's fun though. It's so much fun. And that's my number 31, Camel Up.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a fun party game. All right, my number 31 is another new one. And this one just moved up my list today.
Oh.
When I was looking at when we were doing the designers and years of the game, I was like, nope, this is coming down. This is going to the top of this list. And I can see it moving up even more.
Nice.
I love it. This is Astra, made in 2022 by Patrick. Now these names, Porkalob and Frigius Schjorbler.
Names are hard.
I feel like they're just throwing these names out there now to confuse me, but not sure. It's got to be German, I'm thinking, but it's an awesome game. This is what I thought was a roll and write, but it's not a roll and write. It comes with dry erase sheets and dry erase markers, which is why I thought, oh, it's a like simple roll and write. Nope, it's not. It's got an area control faction. A big part of it is area control, but it's kind of in a different way. So the theme of this is astrology, and you have these giant tarot cards that are dry erase as well, and they have stars on them and signs like your like Taurus, Gemini, and all kinds of things. And so they have all these lines that like how the stars are connected with different dots. And some of the dots are like shining, so they're like a grand star. There's always one where you have to start at. So on your turn, you have all these little gems, and they're called stardust. And you use the stardust to fill in the stars. So you start with 6, I believe, and on your turn you can spend as much as you want. You could spend all 6, but you can only work on one star at a time. So some of the stars only have 5 dots, but some will have like 10 or 12. So I might spend 4 stardust, and then I will start on one star at the double circle point, and then I will continue on from there. And you always have to connect from where you started or what is already out there. So I might put color in 4 dots that are connected. Hopefully I've gotten a grand star, because that shiny star will give me knowledge at the bottom, which is a little track. Then the next player will go and they will continue, and then when you run out of stardust, you take a turn to rest and you fill up your sack. You have a little sack at the top that you will fill up, and so you'll get 6. But there's ways where you can increase the size of it so that it's like a little satchel. It's not virtual, it's just a picture of it on your dry erase board, but you'll want to get it higher and higher and higher, because every time you rest, you'll get more stardust. Now, why you're trying to put these dots on these cards is you are trying to sometimes complete the card because then you get to have it. But sometimes you're not trying to complete it. You're just trying to get your stars on there so somebody else will complete it, because then you get to do one of the bonuses on the bottom. And the bottom bonuses are really cool because it'll be increasing your satchel size. It'll be increasing your knowledge on the track, giving you just straight points, or letting you refresh cards that you've already played. Now, by that, I mean the cards, like when you've completed a star and you get to keep the card, it goes in front of you. Well, other than the bonuses, there's also an ability. So on your turn, before you take your action, you can use some of your card's ability. But you can only use it once and then it flips to the side. And until you've refreshed it, can't use it again. But those abilities are really cool. They might give you telescopes, and telescopes are a complete other turn. They might give you, you can mark 4 stars on one card, and you don't have to follow the normal rules. You could put them anywhere, so you could just fill in the grand stars. It might let you refresh another card, or it might, there's just all kinds of different things. And so what you're doing is you're just keep going around until you get to the end card of this deck, and then you play one final round, and then you count up your points. Now, you'll have a bunch of cards in front of you, and to score, you are going to score however big your satchel is, however much knowledge you have. Your cards will have points, and if they are refreshed, they will score. So that is the tricky part, because when you rest, and depending where the little book is on the dial in the middle, because it has 4 different symbols. It's like air, water, mountain, and sun, I believe. Those are the 4. So depending which symbol the book is at, those are the only ones you get to refresh. So you really have to time things to be able to refresh everything before the end of the game, because you're not going to score those points. That's the tricky part. It's not crucial if you don't refresh all of them, because you also get this little, you have an objective card where you flip over and it shows you, it starts you with some already symbols on there, and you're trying to score as many as you can, because rows and columns will give you bigger points. But it's such a neat game, so unique. And this is the first, I believe, I think it's from Mind Clash, and they usually make these big, heavy, like Anachrony, Tricarion. They usually make these big, heavy games, and I think this is one of their first filler games. It is a bit longer for a filler. I'd say it's more closer to the 45. Could be pushed to an hour if you had a full player count, but it's so pretty. And the theme, the astrology theme, is so cool. It's beautiful, and I love it. And that's my number 31, Astra.
Nice. Yeah, this one is climbing quickly here for you.
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Well, that is it. That's our 40 to 31. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I just get more excited the more we go.
Well, because it gets better and better, right? So yeah.
Like, oh, these are really good games.
Well, like we're doing this list, and on the next page here, because I have these written out in a book, and I'm looking at my 30 to 21. I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I was like, okay, yeah, this gonna just get even better. So I'm excited.
Oh
yeah,
that's good. Awesome. Well, where can people reach you if they want to get a hold of you?
Perfect. Well, we now have a Discord channel, so I would highly recommend that you guys join us there, and you can chit-chat with us. It's funny things. It's been entertaining, and I quite enjoy all the interaction with everybody. So be sure to join us on Discord. I am also on Instagram as Mel's_boardgame_room. My Facebook group is Mel's Board Game Room, and my YouTube channel, where I'm doing the top 100, is on Mel's Board Game Room. How about you, Carla? Where can we find you?
I'm at Instagram, Board Game Specialist, all one word. And then on Facebook, I have a page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. So until next time, when you hear our top 30 to 21, we'll see you then. Bye for now. Thanks for listening.
Bye.